Hi, welcome to Raj Ilnai. In today's video, I am going to discuss about the policy center flow in reference to the Guidewire application. As we all know, in the field of insurance, especially into property and casualty insurance, there are different applications we use in real environment, something like Guidewire, Duck Creek, all that. So one of the prominent tool which widely used across industries in reference to the property and casualty insurance, either it will be life annuity, marine insurance, right? So general insurance, all that. There is a process flow which normally one has to understand. So this is all something essentially important for the people who wants to get into the insurance domain perspective. At the same time, this is something essentially important for the people who wants to move towards property and casualty insurance and to have a knowledge over exposure towards Guidewire, all that. So this is what generally this video is specifically. In this video, I have divided this policy center flow into different things. Right, the first one is called quote. This is what generally the first one which I have taking into an account. Right, the first one is quote. Second was application, which was the next flow, followed by underwriting. At the same time, policy issuance. Next, followed by this endorsements, renewal. Last but not least, cancellation. So these are the different process flows normally will be there in Guidewire application. Now, let us understand what usually we do in code, right? So what is that happens in code and how and what is that are we going to do over here? Normally, if you see this code where the policyholder has to request whatever the policy they want to make, all that stuff, that generally the policyholder wants to make a request relating the quote regarding the insurance coverage is the first one, because policyholder can be anyone who want to insure policy for himself or herself. They have to request first, right? So that is what the first thing which they have to do, because in the context of insurance, because most of the people have some misconception of it, that insurance is not something called selling, because we don't sell product of insurance. Insurance is the one which will insured by a person on their own, either on their own, either it can be life insurance or it may be on their property, it may be on their vehicle, right? So that is how general insurance. So a person who wants to have an insurance for particular purposes and all, they have to make a request and they have to make a quote of it. That's what initially they have to do. One has to do it. This is what the first thing which normally we do, which is called policyholder, where they have to make a request for insurance coverage. This is the first thing normally happens in the first process, which is called quote. Next, what will happen, where here in the next level, where whatever the Guidewire are we talking about, there are different tools for agents and as well as for underwriters, where this is all something which is useful for us to generate the quotes based on the risk profile and as well as the coverage needs. So one has to understand here, because one thing most of the people who wants to move towards the fold kind of insurance, all that, right? So this sort of idea, all that. People must understand few things here. When there is a request was made by a customer or a policy holder, right, for whatsoever reason, whatever the quotation being a provider, if someone is providing, it is based on two things. One is about the risk, as I mentioned here. One is about the risk, and second relating to the coverage. Okay, these are the two major things will be there. One is about risk and second is about the coverage part. So risk followed by the coverage are the two major things which normally we will be taking into an account when you are working on the quotation part, right? So that's what generally we call it as risk followed by the profile all that, right? So these are the two things which we have to be considered. One is about risk, second is coverage. Based on these two parameters, generally quotations will be generation of quotations will be done by the different tools which normally we use in Guidewire. At the same time, of course, there are underwriters, because underwriters are the people who are majorly focusing towards uh, identifying the risk which is involved in it. For example, underwriter is a concept we can see anywhere, even in insurance or in banking worlds. For example, if someone has applied for a loan, right? So, on what basis loan has to be provided? What is the risk which is involved in it? Right. So all these things, the risk assessments and all everything has to be done by the underwriter. So underwriting is a concept which will be useful, especially in the kind of banking and financial services. At the same time, in the insurance also, where underwriting is a process which normally evaluate the kind of risk which is involved in it. Right. This is what generally the first thing which normally we do. So the second one is called application. Right. So when we are talking about this application, where the customers, yeah. So when you're talking about uh, so when we are talking about this, generally customers has to submit the application first, because whatever the application customer has initiated and all, that application will be submitted here. Application form will be submitted over here, right? So this is the first thing which normally we have to do. Once application was submitted, the next was about the policy center, right? So normally this policy center, whatever the Guidewire policy center and all everything. So this will allow insurers to collect the process of the application data. Means whatever the data is there, right? So that data will be processed, and the process will be collected by the application data and all everything will be done by the policy center or in the next level. So followed by the third one is about run eligibility, because we have to ensure the eligibility check, because whether is these people who are really eligible for to have a insurance or something, like, because once the application was submitted, so that we have to see, right? So whether these people have the eligibility or not, that we have to check all that. At the same time, generating the codes, right? So based upon the customer profile, all that. Now here, one thing we have to understand in reference to the particular thing, what is that I'm going to tell you in reference to the risk profile. As I told you, this is something which normally done by the underwriters, because underwriting is a concept which normally used to provide whatever the risk which is involved in it, everything will be performed over here. This is the second step. So once that is done, the next is about underwriting process, as I told you, like, because this is where generally underwriters will come into picture after once the application, because agents will be working on it. At the same time, underwriting process will also be initiated, but major focus will be mainly on this third step, where this underwriting process or underwriters has to assess the risk about the kind of insuring the customer and determining whether this appropriate premium or not. They have to determine, because based upon the coverage what an individual is opting for they are really eligible for, based on that what is the premium which is required and how appropriate the premium, that has to be decided in this level. At the same time, next, policy center supports underwriting activities. These underwriting activities, as I mentioned earlier, also risk assessment, policy pricing. At the same time, this policy approval workflows, all these things will be done under the underwriting process. So once this underwriting process has been done, the next is called policy issuance. Whereas here, the policy will be approved normally to the people whoever has applied for the policy, where we have to generate the policy document, and at the same time this will be delivered to the customer, because once the risk assessment done, once we have identified how much insurance to be are they eligible for, followed by the kind of premium, how appropriate is that, etc. So once the risk assessment, everything is finalized, the policy pricing or approvals, everything finalized, the next thing is about issuance. So here normally this policy will be approved and this will be generated, policy document will be generated. Subsequently, this will be delivered to the customer. And whatever is delivered, that has to be updated in the system records, whatever the policy date, including the coverage limits, right? Followed by the deductibles at the same time, premium amounts. These are the 3 points. As far as the system records itself is concerned, there are 3 things which normally it covers. One is our coverage limits will be mentioned over that. Deductibles will be mentioned in that. At the same time, premium amounts will also be mentioned in it, right? So these are the 3 different things which will be included in this. After that, we will be going for endorsements, right? So here, if there is any kind of changes to be made, right, or if there is any kind of changes to be made to the existing ones, either adding new information or updating the existing information, all that. Normally, all these requests will be changed in the endorsement part because people can raise a request so that necessary changes and all everything can be done. Wherein Policy Center supports the processing of the endorsements and all, including calculation of the premium adjustments and all, if any, right? So if there is any adjustment in reference to the premiums based upon the kind of changes was made, if there is anything of that sort. For example, when we are going for vehicle insurance, where there were multiple vehicles were taken. For example, 10 vehicles were insured. So out of 10, they were withdrawing 1 or 2 vehicles from the insurance, for example, right? So automatically premium will also come down, right? Whatever the annual premium or whatever the slab rate based premium are we paying, customer is paying, automatically that premium will be adjusted, right? So that is what generally happens under the endorsement part. So once the endorsement is done, the next is called renewal, we call it as. So end of the public policy term under the Policy Center automatically generates a new renewal quotes for the customer based on the coverage history and any changes to their risk profile. This is also, so renewal is a continuous process because once the particular time period was lapsed, right? Maybe for 1 year they have taken, automatically that will come to renewal part and all. If there is any renewal and all everything, they will see whatever the coverage history they see, right? Whether they have claimed anything of that sort. Otherwise, NCB, which normally we call it as NCB, which is called no claim bonus, will be deducted on the premium, right? So that of course, no claim bonus is very simple. No claim bonus means, for example, a person has taken an insurance policy for his vehicles or something, right, etc., etc., wherein he is paying premium every year, right? For example, he is paying premium 1 year, 2nd year, 3rd year, and so on, right? So wherein that individual is not claiming any insurance because he don't have any need for that, so that hence he didn't do that. So what insurance companies do? Insurance company will issue a NCB, which is called no claim bonds. It means as the person has not applied for any insurance policy claims or something, in against to that, what insurance companies do? Insurance companies will issue a no claim bonus to the customer. So no claim bonus means that percentage of amount on their premium will be deducted so that their premium amount will get deducted. Of course, apart from that, if there is any kind of risk which is involved subsequently, that risk will also be seen under the renewal part. So once the renewal is done, next is about cancellation, right? If policy is cancelled, normally this policy hunter generate cancellation notices and all everything. At the same time, whatever the process refunds, if there is any, right? Process refunds if there is any option, right? So which can be generate policies, and if there is any kind of process refunds and all everything, so that will be processed automatically over here. So this is what generally the complete picture over the Policy Center flow. This is what generally in reference to the Policy Center normally when we follow when we are working on any kind of applications, especially in reference to the Guidewire or something of that sort. So this is how generally the flow of the Policy Center is all about. So if you have any questions, if you have any queries in regard to that, if you have any training or coaching needs in regard to this, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.